Good morning, Stampers. Welcome to Learning with Friends. I am Pat Fairless from Fairless Stampin' Flair, and today we're going to have some fun with Specialty Designer Series paper. We're just going to do some, I got three different, they're not really techniques, but three different things that we can have some fun with our specialty paper. So let's go ahead and get started. So what I'm calling specialty paper is this kind of designer paper where usually one side has some pretty foil on it, and the other side is like regular paper, smooth, no foil. And the first thing I'm going to do today is I'm going to use this Nature Sweetness, I think it's called, Designer Series paper. And we're going to do some coloring on it. But before we do that, here's one of the designs. I love this paper. It's so pretty. It's got this gold check foil kind of abstracty thing going on here. And then these can be die cut. Actually, I think you have to fussy cut them. I don't think there's dies. And here's the another piece of the paper. So it's got this beautiful gold foil on one side. Here's another piece with foiled on some pebble path, and the colors here are copper clay. This one's really pretty too. And then here's a pebble path and some script D letters, but we're going to use this one. And I love the images. This is the other side. These images, this large image here, this one, and this one, there are dies that do cut those out. I don't happen to have the dies. So for my card, I did fussy cut them, but there are dies that coordinate with this. So let me just get this out of my way. We're going to use this, and I cut a piece out of here, this large floral, and we're just going to color this with our Stampin' Blends. Now, I'm not going to color this whole thing for you. I am a slow colorer, but I want to show you some things that I found when I colored this to kind of help you out and have you avoid happening to you what happened to me. I'm going to do my leaves in Shy Shamrock, and these little flowers, I have Petunia Pop, so these are the 24, 25 in colors, two of them. And then I also colored the flower on this one for my card, just the flower portion in Daffodil Delight. We're not going to do that today. I will show you the card with everything fully covered. But here's what I wanted to kind of point out. So when we use Stampin' Blends, I think there's many right ways to do this. I don't think there's a wrong way. You can either do your dark areas first and then go over the whole thing with the light, or color everything with the light and then go back and add. Then you usually need to go over this again. Today I am going to try to, normally the way I use blends is I color the whole image that I want this, and I might do one leaf at a time so I have a better chance of blending. But I would color the whole leaf with the light, then I would go back and add the darker highlights like on the veining, and then I would go back and blend with the light again. I am going to try today where I'm going to put my darker color on first, and let's just start with this. Let's just add some of these in here. Now, the one thing I want to tell you is, and it'll be more with this next color, what I found when I colored this is you need to stay away from the edge. Let me just try to see if I can hold this up close and show you. I don't know if this is going to work, but watch how this ink spreads. If you color right up to the line, can you see it's pretty much bled all the way out to the line, and I stayed a good 16th inch away. So You don't want to color out to the line. You want to leave a little white between your line and where you color, because for some reason the Stampin' Blends tended to bleed a lot more on this designer series paper than it does on regular cardstock. And I don't know if that is indicative of every designer series paper. Obviously, I didn't try every specialty paper we have, but I did find out on this. And I ended up having to do my image twice because it really did bleed. It went outside of the lines. The other thing I noticed is that it did not tend to blend as well on this paper as it does on cardstock. And I don't know if I can show you this. This one I colored with the light first, and now we'll add some dark. So we'll just go along the vein and kind of down here. And I'm trying to stay away from the edges. And then normally I would go back over it and blend it again to blend that dark in. And what I noticed was where I had the dark and the light, and I don't know, it's probably going to be really hard to see here in the video, but you would get almost like what I would say a watermark where they two were. So that's why I wanted to do today the dark first and then just go over it with the light. And I think that I'm finding that actually works a little bit better. So let's go ahead and just do this rest of this leaf here. This is the light, here's my dark. And see if you can see this or not, I'm not sure, but it has actually bled just a smidgen outside the line. So don't be afraid to stay, we're actually well away from the edges because it's going to get there. It is something about the texture of the paper that the blends just will bleed further than they do on a regular cardstock. So it's just something to kind of pay attention to. It's not terrible. It's still acceptable. But if you're somebody who doesn't like to go outside the lines, then don't color right up to the lines. Stay a ways back. So here's the light, here's the dark. I'm going to do the light first on this one. And again, I'm going to stay, and I'm almost just touching it. And I don't know if you can see that or not. Let me just touch it here and see how it's moving. Now this is a newer marker. Well, they're both the same, but this one maybe hasn't been used as much. I'm not sure. But that's kind of what I noticed, is that it bleeds a lot more on this designer series paper than it does on cardstock. So you get the point. Just stay away from the edges. And I'm just darkening the center just a tad. Here, I'll do that one first. And like I said, I'm not going to color this whole flower because I've got two other things I want to show you. So you probably all know how to color with blends by now. They've been out for a while. If you're not familiar, maybe I'll do a video just on coloring with blends sometime. But this ends up making really pretty images because instead of, we could stamp it with gold embossing powder and color it, right? Kind of the same thing, but here it's already done for you. So just use your designer series paper. So let me show you the card. This is a card I made, so you can see this is that full flower on there that I fuzzy cut because I don't have the dies. And then I added this one down here. These dies are from the Wildflower Design dies. They make these pretty hexagon shapes. And this is a new embossing folder that'll be available. Actually, it's available now. It's an online exclusive called modern herringbone. I think it's really pretty. And then for the inside, so when I die cut these, a hint, if you're gonna raise up this little tiny frame on dimensionals, it's helpful to have it backed with basic white cardstock or any cardstock really, just to give it a little bit more stiffness. And then die cut it, you could adhere it flat. You don't need to pop it up. I like to pop things up. You know I'm a dimensional-aholic, right? So I cut each of these, and when you cut the frame, you get the center. So I cut it out of both this checked pattern and this gold pattern here. This is the gold pattern I used on the frame. And then for the inside, I had the opposite pieces left over. So I had the inside left where I had the frame, and I had the frame left that I used for the inside. So I just used that on my inside of my card. I'm like, I might as well use it. And I thought that turned out really pretty. I was happy with that. I think I like all the cards today. So that is our first card, Coloring with Blends on specialty paper. Now the next one, we're going to use our blending brush on our specialty paper. And this is from, what is it called? Naturally Gilded. This designer paper is an online exclusive. It's been around for a while. It has 3 different patterns in it. We have one that is very vanilla with gold, and these look like more like flowers. These definitely, to me, look like trees. And then the third pattern is copper color. And let's see if I can grab that. And this just kind of looks like stems, or I don't know, weeds almost, right? It's pretty, but there's copper, gold, and silver in there. I'm going to use the silver, and I'm going to use 3 different blues. These are Color Buddies on the Color Buddy chart. There is Balmy Blue, Azure Afternoon, and Blueberry Bushel. And I am going to start with the lightest one and just work my way up and kind of make an ombre. The reason I'm starting with the lightest one, you can start with the darkest, but if I start with the lightest, then I don't feel like I have to change brushes in between, because I can get darker, right? So we're just going to wipe some Balmy Blue on here. It's about a third and a third and a third, I think is kind of what I did. Now, what you might want to do is just take a tissue periodically and just kind of wipe it off. Don't give it too much time to dry. This is an awful lot like the emboss resist technique that we do with embossing powder, because the ink doesn't stick to the foiled. When we emboss, it doesn't stick to the embossing powder surface. On here, the foiled area resists it, but it doesn't resist it quite as well, I would say, as embossing powder. So I just, every once in a while, I just take a tissue or a paper towel and just kind of wipe it off the silver part. And you want to make sure that's dry. The first time I tried it, I had it a little damp because I thought, well, that's what I do on embossing powder. You don't want to do that on this paper. That kind of made a boo-boo. Not terrible, but you could see it kind of streaked the ink. So I would recommend just a dry tissue or a paper towel. Now I'm going to take my Azure Afternoon and do the center and just blend this kind of right down into the Balmy Blue. I think I should have inked these before. They're feeling a little dry. I'm always torn. Do I ink it or don't I before I blend? Because if you ink it sometimes, then this turns you have more ink than you think you do, and it doesn't blend as well. So I'll just push a little harder and ink a little more often, I guess. But we're just making an ombre. So blend this right down into your balmy blue, so you don't want a white line between. And then the last color I'm using is Blueberry Bushel. But let me just wipe this off so I get the most of it. You can see it doesn't pick up much, but a little bit. And obviously I'm doing an ombre here. You can do any color you want. I was a little carried away with this. I made 2 cards. The other one is more like a sunset. And I made it with the gold and the very vanilla. So I'll show you that card too. They're designed exactly the same, just different paper. Okay. Now, isn't that a lot easier than stamping an image, embossing it, and using the emboss resist technique? Now, that's a great technique. I love it. I've done video on here before with it, but I just thought this was a great way to use some of the specialty paper and do a little something different with it. So here's my technique sheet, and here's the finished card. Super simple card. I just die cut a couple trees from silver foil. Now, my hint on this card is my mat is silver, so I mounted this to silver foil, but these trees were die cut from the center of that silver foil. So we made use, no sense covering up all this pretty expensive foil, right? So if you're going to do die cuts, if you're not going to do die cuts, just take a couple dies, a rectangle die, and cut a piece out of the center and save it for another card for later. It's a great way to stretch your foil, we'll say. And this is from Peaceful Seasons, and they have these really cute dies. So this is this card, and then on the inside, I just added another piece. Here's the uncolored paper, so you can see what it started like, right? And what it is colored. And I didn't color the flap either. I could have colored them both, but I didn't think it was necessary. So that's that one. And let me show you the other card. This is the one with the gold and the very vanilla. And here I did more of a sunset. I've got some Granny Apple Green. I think it was Lemon Lolly or Daffodil to Delight, some yellow. Let me see. What did I write down? Not sure. I think it was Lemon Lolly. And then I did Fresh Freesia, Gorgeous Grape, and up here is Night of Navy. So it's the exact same card design, same trees, just one is in golds, and I have a sunset, and the other is in silver. I don't know. I did the inside the same too. I had a little scrap I found in my stash, so I just put that on the edge there. So that is that card. So those are 2 ways to use it, to use specialty paper. Now the last one, we're not going to use foiled specialty paper. We are going to use glimmer paper. And I am going to use Peach Pie. This is Peach Pie glimmer paper. It is from the 24-25 collection of In Color glimmer paper. And we're going to make some leaves out of this. Now it's pretty, just as it is, obviously. But I've already die cut a couple leaves from Autumn Leaves. So these are out of the Peach Pie, uncolored. And we're going to color this. I'll just do the maple leaf for today. This is a really simple technique. You just need some glimmer paper, some ink refills, and I have here Real Red and Shaded Spruce. I wanted to try to make them look like autumn leaves with a little bit of color. And I played around a bit, and the brighter, more intense colors seemed like they worked better. You do have to put a few coats on it for it to show. And you might not think it's doing anything, but I think once you see a finished one, and I'm just going to put a couple drops here on my acrylic block of Real Red and Shaded Spruce. I think once you see it, you will see that there is a difference between just uncolored and colored. Now, because this is a fairly dark piece of glimmer paper, here's what I'm going to recommend. Take your scrap after if you use a die cut, you don't have to die cut. You could just do this on a piece of paper for your front, right? But if you have one of these where you die cut, just use a piece of these scraps on your glimmer paper and test out your colors, because I played quite a bit with different colors. I tried cherry cobbler. Cherry cobbler kind of got a little bit more brownish than reddish. And I tried garden green, that was good, but the shaded spruce was darker, so I felt like I was getting a little bit more color. I also, the first time I tried it, I watered it down, so I squeezed quite a bit of ink into here. And I kind of found that I liked it better if I didn't water it down. And because you can see this really light, this will really, really lighten up once you let it dry. It's going to look much different when it's dry, so that you're probably going to find you need more colors, right? Or you need more coats. You're going to want to put more coats in. So let's just put a red here and there. Kind of make ourselves an autumn leaf here, and then we'll add some green. I was going to originally put yellow on because yellow's a good color on leaves. Couldn't even see it on this peach pie, so I skipped it. I'm like, no point in doing that if I can't see it. What's the point? And I am going to show you this on a piece of white glimmer paper that I found in my stash. There is white glimmer paper available. I don't have any of it yet. So let's just put a little green on here. And see how dark this looks? But you're going to be really surprised once it dries. It becomes much lighter. And if you're thinking, oh, that's way too dark, I don't like how dark that is over there, just squeeze your pen, your water painter a little bit. The water will come out. It'll spread. It also gives it a little bit more organic if it's wetter, which is nice. And I want to leave a little of the peach. Okay? I'm kind of switching between the red and the green pens, because I want to, this might be a little dark over here. I just don't want to take time to clean them. You can use the same pen. Let me take a peek, show you something now. I'm going to take a piece of paper towel, which I probably should have put down under here before. And I'm just going to blot this. You can let it dry naturally, but I just want to show you once it dries. Remember how red that was up there? Well, when it dries, it definitely dries lighter. And that's why I'm saying you may want to put a couple of coats. And I would just let it dry naturally. Now these have gotten a little dry over here. And you could use rubbing alcohol instead of water. I thought of that this morning and I'm like, I should have tried that. But what do you think? Is this kind of pretty? This is just one you're just going to kind of play with it to add colors as you want. It's probably one of those you could overdo it. So we're just going to quit. And let me pick this up and show you. But you will see, like the red, how red it was, has already, it kind of goes through to the back. But if you look at this next to the one that was before we colored it, I'm hoping it shows. It's really hard to photograph glittery stuff, right? I'm hoping you can see it. I can see it. It's probably something you'll want to play with. But let me show you, if you have white glimmer paper, now you don't have to worry about, now you probably will want to water down your ink, because it would be really, it's very dark. And I'm going to squeeze a little bit and just kind of let this move around. So this is white glimmer paper, and I should have looked up the item number where you can get that. But you can see that there's really good strong color with that. And here's my red. Water that down a little bit. I'm just doing this to show you how much more it shows on white. Now, I wouldn't want the leaves to look like that, honestly, because I don't think, as far as leaves go, that would be a very good color. But let me just put a dab of yellow on here. And I'll show you yellow on the white, because you can really see it. On the peach pie, you cannot. But I do have to try to get some of this red and green out of my, I want to mix the red with the yellow if I can help it. Wasn't really planning to do this, but here we go. Now I'm going to mix this a little bit too, so I'm going to put a couple drops. Now there is still a little bit of red in here, so but look at this yellow. Isn't that pretty? That would just make the prettiest flames on candles, wouldn't it? Get this out of the way and pick this up so you can see it. You see it? Can you see the sparkle and the color? So pretty. Let me show you the card with the leaf. This is the card I made. This is Autumn Leaves stamp set. It's been around in dies. It's been around for quite a while. And I just made it on very vanilla. So I've got some, the background was stamped with sketched plaid, and there's a die cut behind here made with, I think it's the Spotlight on Nature dies. And then the inside I had a little scrap. I stamped this a little bit bigger. Actually, I stamped two of them, so I've got it on the envelope. And then I just put stamped a piece here. And here's my little tiny maple leaf that's also been colored. So I hope you can see those colors in there. It's not showing up real well for me when I'm looking at my camera. So I hope you can see it, because they really are. It really is pretty in person. And you can see how easy it is. So let's just bring these all back here. Ended up with a bonus card today because I was having such fun with these two. So there we go. I hope you give them a try. I'm sure you've got some of that specialty paper laying around in your stash. So here are at least 3 different ways to use it, and maybe it'll make you think of some other ones. I was thinking the one with the blending brushes, you could even use like a negative mask and then create a spotlight for what you wanted to put on. That could be kind of pretty and fun, depending on your pattern that you have. Because we have some just that are like all over marbled effect. There's that new marvelous marbles or something, marvelous. It's a new online exclusive. You'll have to check it out. I think it would be really pretty using that blending brush technique. So that's what I had for you today. I hope you like that. I hope you learned a little something, or at least triggered some thoughts and some other ways to use your specialty paper. That paper is always so pretty. I don't think there's a specialty paper I've been able to resist. So thank you for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your week. I would love it if you gave me a thumbs up. If you're new, welcome. Share the video with your friends, and I'd love to have you subscribe. Have a great day, great weekend. God bless. We'll see you next week with something else.